Hello out there, you lovely, lovely people. And
Not unmute.
there
we
you
go.
go.
Nope. Turn it up a little. I can't hear myself but at all. I don't know why in the headphone. There we go.
Because I turned on your headphones, girl. That's what I did. That's how I do. I got to control this show, you know. Can't let somebody be louder than me. Hello, everybody. Steve the Iceberg, Ricky Berg, Larry, Boz, Danny. Danny was thinking of you today because there was a little bit of hey guy in the book. Jude Stenson. Hello, Dan. Brittany, Nastasi, Simorg, Sean, Kim, Lisa Sutton. Hello-y. Hello-y to you, too. Let's swing this back down here. Ladies and gentlemen, not that this is my dream world, but it's Homer Simpson's dream world. It's National Beer Day, and we have our opening GIF montage, whatever you will call it. Our opener is, of course, the wonderful Homer Simpson, who does like that. He likes that Duff beer, which is made in America, by the way. Did you know that?
Springfield, right?
Yeah, Springfield, Lincoln Park, the two most common names for towns in America. Do you know that?
I did not know
Yep.
that.
Lincoln Park and Springfield. Okay, so here we go. What up, yo? Oh, I got to move over.
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay,
There we go.
we probably will have to adjust the cameras after we go live, but baby girl, are you ready to go live?
I am.
3 and 2 and 1. Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new week. I had to check, see if it was Tuesday. A new week of Sigler in Place. It is I, your FDO, along with my lovely wife and business partner, AB Sigler. AB, how you feeling? Not feeling so good today?
You guys all know, especially you guys who have been following us a long time. I have a medical condition called a frozen shoulder, and it is exactly what it sounds like. All the muscles in your shoulder lock up. It takes like 3 years to get rid of.
That's ridiculous.
And so I'm about 15 months in, and I'm having a flare-up, which is a good thing, actually. I know that will, especially if anybody who has actually seen me suffer through it, will be worried about that. But it's a good thing because it's in the thawing from the freeze segment. But I am having a little bit of a rough day.
Rough day. Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm not going to be.
This is my uncomfortable laugh. A's not feeling. So I'm laughing, but I'm not laughing at her
But
pain.
we're only telling you because a lot of you guys already know that I'm going through that, and we have learned on Sigler in Place that so many of you are so lovely that you can tell if either one of us are out of sorts, and so you will absolutely be able to tell that I'm suffering a little bit with my shoulder, but that's okay. Hopefully by the time this resolves hopefully like a week, it'll be better.
This episode is dedicated to none other than Big John Viscara,
oh, yes.
who is a bit under the weather at the moment. We want to make sure, we hope that he is feeling better very soon. That is
we
why
love you, John.
Now we're going to combine two things at once. Siglocktail.
Okay, you guys, this is the first time our Siglocktail is not the Siglocktail I published yesterday, but the shoulder thing hit today. And if you watched that video, you saw me shaking that shaker. That's not a thing I can do today.
She was shaking that moneymaker. She cannot shake it, but she can. You can shake it, but you can't break. And what you did shake it, and you broke it.
I did. Yeah. I definitely broke it. So
that's the way that works.
Scott, since it's National Beer Day, suggested that instead. He'll drink his favorite beer.
Oh, yes. It's a Bud Light, the American beer. For some reason, I talk about the American beer with a German accent, Yeah, it's in this, and now we're going to do these hurt my hand. I have
a beer reveal, apparently.
Big beer reveal. Yeah. This is a Beers Cheers to Big John.
Absolutely.
Beers Cheers to Big John. Boom.
Big John, I'm not hurting like you are right now, but I'm hurting a little bit, so I certainly love you. I certainly feel for you, and I cannot wait for you to be back on track.
Gosh, that's good, colored water. It's delicious. I love it. You can all kiss my ass. There is, and we're dedicating this one to John because there's just so much we can't do anymore without John in the structure of Empty Set Entertainment,
Yeah, Daryl Harris, definitely a beer locktail. Absolutely. Yeah, and there's so many things that over the years, you don't really think about it. Like, we call ourselves a two-person business often, and the reality is that we are a sole proprietorship, technically speaking. Like, we both own the company the same amount, and then we hire vendors. But the reality is they are people who we trust and love. The Iceberg is one. JP Harvey is one. Scott Pond is one. John Vizcarra is one. Chris Grawl is one. We have tons and tons and tons of what Scott calls the secret agents. And John, I bet we both talk to him probably every day, especially right now where we're both in the midst of audiobook recording and editing, and Stone Wolves is happening and Gangster is happening. We talk to him quite a lot. And I hope that you recover 100% tomorrow. That's what I hope.
That'd be great.
Or however long it takes.
Guys, we have one hell of a show for you today. We're going to be talking about A's retrospective on the amazing James Randi. He was a famed skeptic and buster of nonsense and shenanigans and hullabaloo, and we won't tolerate that in a science-based world. We're going to talk about that towards the end of the show because I want to show a famous clip that Randi was involved in, and just in case people get booted off of the YouTubes while we're showing a clip, we want to make sure you can see as much of the show as possible. So we are going to get to that at the end. We've got some junkie questions coming up. We had a request, not necessarily for questions, but for the question song. People like the question song.
All right, well, we'll do the question song.
We've got some pup dates, including some junkie pup dates, which are going to be great.
I do have to point out,
Yes.
if you guys have pets that are not dogs, it doesn't have to be a pup date. We want to celebrate all your critters. You got a bird, I know, Tasha, you got lizards. I want to see them. Blair, I know you got horses. I want to see them. Whatever they are, send them to info@emptyset.
I am being overruled by the company manager right now because
you'd rather just have dogs?
Dogs all the time. Dogs are the
Anybody
jam.
has a hedgehog doing anything, I want to see a picture of that hedgehog.
We are going to, yes, hedgehogs are fine. We're going to talk about this day in Siglerism coming up, and we have an incredibly very, very important, very, very special, let's see if I can find the button here. Hold on. Here we go. Yes. We've got a Story Smack coming up this weekend on Halloween.
I'm so excited.
A and I are going to be dressed in costumes that we made from things around the lockdown house.
Because we love you. We're doing that because we love y'all.
I've got my costume picked out. You guys are going to love it. It's sick. It's amazing. I don't know what A's is yet. I don't know if she's had time to get to it. We've been extremely busy. Excuse me. Somebody was asking about the Gangster audiobook. That is what we've been doing literally all week long. We're almost done, but we're going to have a little bit of information on that. But this Saturday, we're going to be talking about this amazing seminal movie, The Shining. We are going to have our first guest ever on SIGLERinPLACE, which will be Rob Otto, the Empty Set movie maven. We're going to try and bring him on live so he can give us some yummy details about The Shining. Now, we've never had a guest, so the tech is going to be a shit show. The content, we don't know if we really prep any content with Rob before, so that could be a shit show. But be aware that Rob Otto can be entertaining with absolutely zero prep to all people at all times, and he is a talented guy. Oh, yes, baby.
He does actually sort of work in a role where he's on a lot of the time.
Yes.
His job requires him to be in front of people he doesn't know and mentoring students and stuff like that quite frequently. So I think you're the real wild card here, honestly.
I am the wild card. Let's go back to Maine since that trailer's done. I don't know if that movie's on May 23rd. I don't know what the hell that was.
Hey,
that's
Irish
where
Obsession.
That's
so
where
good
I got
to
the
see
trailer.
You, honey.
Dan Baker says Rob is content. That is
Fair.
absolutely correct.
That's a good way to say that.
We are up to, you guys, if you're not listening to this, what is wrong with your face? Over at scottsigler.com or at iTunes, anywhere that you can subscribe to things. Nocturnal is in episode number 38 right now. 39 posts this Sunday. And then a week from Sunday, episode 40, the finale of the Nocturnal throwback, going back in the time machine to 2008 and repodcasting the original story that I wrote a chapter a week, edited, recorded, and posted for 40 weeks, apparently. That's how long it took.
And in case you guys are listening along to that, we've gotten a handful of emails where people are really excited about the throwback just because they get to remember who they were then, who Scott was then. Some people are mad at some of the stuff that happens, which, it's the same story, so it still happens.
Still happens, yeah.
One thing that's different, though, we've had 5 now emails asking, cool, but these things are missing. And I want to remind you, I believe this book is not the published version.
Correct.
At all. And there's a huge amount of stuff that happens in this that you're hearing now, the throwback, that never made it into the printed book because Scott published it week by week as a first draft. And then once you get past a first draft and you have to be like, okay, cool, this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Where did this guy come from? This is a plot hole you can drive a truck through. I got to fix all this business. That didn't end up in the book. So somebody asked if we were going to hear the same epilogue. People have been asking about set design, or set pieces like the Jeremiah O'Brien and stuff like that. And just remember that this will be different than the book that you read or the audiobook that you listened to that was published.
Yes. So that is what is coming up. Let's swing back to me. Thank you. You may send those pet pictures to info@emptyset.com, which also is where you can send your Sigler-brations, because here at Empty Set, we celebrate the wins. You got a birthday, you got an anniversary, you got a new job, you got a job-anniversary, anything you want to celebrate, go ahead and send that to us. We'll give you a shout-out in the show. Today, we are celebrating Joshua Loya getting his surgery taken care of.
Yeah, it sounds like Joshua and Andrea, his wife, are in the chat room tonight. Joshua mentioned it last week. We gave him good vibes last week. You guys apparently did a great job because Joshua got home. Joshua got home this morning after surgery and is doing okay. He posted a video on Facebook saying he was home and hopped up on pain meds, but the surgery went well, and it was a hernia surgery. And he said his doctor had said the hernia was a super easy surgery, but it was kind of big. So I'm really glad you're home. And I'm really glad that Andrea's there to help you. And I hope you feel a billion times better as soon as you can, Joshua.
Also in the audience today is Kelly McCardle, which I would like to point out that Kelly McCardle's team is 5-2.
Okay.
The Browns are 5-2, and they're in third friggin' place in their division. It's very sad. It's the most Browns way to be third place in the history of mankind.
Well,
but Kelly, we forgot.
Remembering the lights. It's been a rough day for me.
We forgot to turn on the lights, you guys. All right, let's get to...
do we have one more?
No, we do got to do a beers cheers to Joshua. Beers cheers.
Yeah, beers cheers to Joshua. And Samorg, you said you had a sort of Sigler-bration, so if you want to either tell us in the chat room or email it to me, we'll celebrate on Thursday. We got a couple coming up on Thursday. I will tell you one more thing. We would love to Sigler-brate Halloween costumes.
Yeah.
So once you debut your Halloween costume, if you care to share them with us, we'll show them on Tuesday.
I have a caveat. For this particular Halloween, if you're going to share your Halloween costume, the rule is it has to be a Halloween costume made from stuff in your house. Because of the COVIDs, because of the lockdown, because of everything we're doing here on SIGLERinPLACE, my costume is going to be all stuff from inside the house. So yours has to be too. So
but what if they were better than us and they prepared, like they thought about it back in July and they ordered stuff, right? Like you can't just run out now that we said it and get a costume or something. In that case, you're just going to have to make your own Jason mask.
But you've got a couple of days to be creative. So, join us on Saturday for The Shining, for the Story Smack. And you may have some beer burps in this episode, you guys.
Oh, my goodness.
Sorry. All the beers, cheers. Give us some beer burps. Let's see. Let's go back to, boom, Site Bless Us. Here we go. Look at this. Over at Siglerpedia, a site but managed heavily by Mr. John Vizcarra.
And on this day in Siglerism, absolutely created a
John.
Total project of his own, and it's gorgeous. And the iceberg says that nudity does not count as a costume, Scott.
Is it? But I have that around the house. I have nudity available. Going in the Wayback Machine, last year we were doing Fire is Orange. We put out Splashing Contest, a story I wrote when I was just a wee lad. 2017, we were doing, the 29th episode of Chinatown was 2 years ago. The 29th episode of Story Smack was 2 years ago. We did Chinatown. Let's see. Going back to 2013, we were doing episode 1 of Nocturnal. That is the final edition, not the one you were hearing right now in the throwback. And way back in 2011, we were doing Guess Goods, three questions with artist Len Peralta, who is a wonderful incredibly talented. Would you call him a pop artist? What do you call that? Baby?
He's absolutely he's I mean he's trained as a fine artist. He does a lot of fine art.
He does all kinds of geeky stuff.
He does a huge amount. He's a geeky artist, and his son is a beautiful fine artist. I'm pretty sure his name is Patrick. Len, forgive me if I'm wrong, but the Peraltas are quite talented, and they have. I'll see if I can find them. Len made something called Heroes versus Villains, the 50 versus 50, and he took commissions for 50 heroes. You could take anybody you want and ask him to draw them as a hero.
Yep.
And then he did 50 villains, and I, as a gift, early on, Scott had him Scott commissioned as a villain. And Mastermind, I'm not sure what movie that was, but the big blue bald-headed, light bulb-shaped headed dude, he did Scott in the sort of the spirit of Mastermind, but Scott was a big fan of Joffrey.
Yep.
And
King
so
Joffrey.
It's beautiful. And I thought it was lovely. He chose to put in the background, pages, literal actual pages from Infected. He bought a paperback copy to set the background. And then Scott, for my birthday that same year, made me a hero. And he said, well, if you're drawing comic books, she needs to have big boobs, I guess.
Comic book heroines
I have
have
never,
big hooters.
Never.
They got the jugs,
never
The jugs.
Been as cute. There's the geekweek.net he found. Ricky Berg.
Okay.
Yeah, the Iceberg found it. But I don't know how we do that.
I don't know either.
Oh, there we go.
There we go. Thanks, Steve.
Yeah.
Holy cats, that's very helpful. There I am.
Yeah, that's the U.S. Joffrey. There's also one when I did the
favorite
hero.
character from Game of Thrones. You guys can like anyone you want. We all knew who the real star of that show was. It was Jeffrey. He was killing people left and right, and just being an about it. And like, there's a speed painting thing here too.
Watch that a little bit. So this is actually he did what was called Geek a Week. He did 2 seasons of Geek a Week where he spent a week drawing the likeness of a geek that you would know and you would recognize. And this is Scott's version. This is not the thing I commissioned, but it is super cool. And it is why I went back to him and said, can you make Scott a villain?
I don't have big jugs, so it worked out. Okay, back to Maine. So we didn't mean to go off on a tangent about Mr. Peralta, but he also has done the Hunterson and Sons family, which I can't find right now. So we'll come back to that. Let's go. We've got so much stinking content to get to. You know what time it is now?
I don't.
It's time for a pup date.
Oh,
Yeah.
our pups?
It's time for a
Nice.
pup date.
Oh, we've got pup dates.
Let's
I feel
take
like
a
we
look.
need a
I may
different song.
have. Okay, hold on.
This is not.
Hold
This
on.
is everybody's pops. I
Yeah,
love
this is
it.
everybody's pops. Camera. There we are, right there. There's us. On the left is a shot taken by my wife and a beautiful little scoochie poo nose. I just want to boop them. I put these up because these are both very boopable.
These are boop my noses, yes.
Boop my noses pictures. On the left is Reese, the original dog. Well, the second.
The dog of doom, really.
The current dog of doom.
The
On the
current dog
right,
of doom.
Squeaks McGeeks, the tiny jerk. Is that what you call her? Tiny asshole?
She's a tiny jerk.
Not-
She's my tiny jerk, but she's a tiny jerk.
She's your tiny
yeah.
jerk. And now we're going to take those guys down because, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for
Oh yeah, this is
Junkie Pup Dates. It's
I
so
love
great. I
this.
love the
This
junkies.
is, Rowan. Rowan, actually, Daryl and Jennalia, who are in the chat room tonight. This is their daughter's dog, Rowan. And
Okay.
this is on Rowan's birthday, which Daryl called her dog day.
Oh,
There's another picture. We'll see which comes up next. This is her in her Dog of Doom
come
sweatshirt.
on.
Come on, look at
Come
that. It's the
on.
cutest thing. So
Look at
Rowan
that
is a
sweet buddy.
sweetheart, and it's so fun to get these emails, you guys. It's so fun.
now we've got, who's this
And
guy?
this is Ludo. Ludo is no longer with us.
Oh,
He
come
belonged
on.
to Boz, who I think
Okay.
is also probably in the chat room.
Boz
but
is in the chat room.
on the last, sorry, to go back to Rowan, you don't have to go back. Daryl says Rowan was a rescue.
Rowan was rescue. A lot
So
of
cute, yeah.
great rescue dogs. Our dogs are rescue dogs.
Yeah, both of our dogs
Yeah.
are rescue
Yeah,
dogs
yeah,
too. This is Ludo. Ludo was named after Labyrinth. He was a 154-pound Leonberger dog.
What?
And is there another photo? So Boz is a big human. And he said, and of course, Ludo was a lap dog, as you can tell.
Ludo, what a sugar plum.
And
Come
so
on.
Boz actually sent a gorgeous, very nice email saying, thank you so much for also inviting dogs that we loved who are no longer here. And that's true.
Yeah.
Any pet that you have that you loved, we want to celebrate that pet because you celebrate them anyway. So why not?
And then we have...
Oh,
Who is this? Who is this guy?
This is Zeus.
Zeus.
Zeus belongs to the Lundys, Jen and Dan Lundy, and he is also a rescue. He's a recent. I think he's. I don't quite remember, but I think they got him in the time that I have known Jen Lundy. So at least in the last 4 years. And he's apparently a tree climbing dog. This is their corkscrew willow tree, and he likes to climb up.
Reminds me of Mookie. My old dog Mookie used to love climbing up trees like this.
Oh, really? Yeah, I've actually not seen that. I don't know a lot of dogs, so that's kind of fun. And then we have one more, I think. Oh, this is Yuli. I love him so much. Yuli
Such a sweetie.
2.5 years old. He belongs to the iceberg. And
buddy.
I do understand. I think the Ricky Berg family has a lot of GSDs. I believe that Yuli is relatively new after after a loss. So iceberg, we'd also love to see your previous pup. But we have another picture of Yuli, I think. Oh, come on. Steve sent this photo in and said, this is him cuddling on a rainy day. He loves toys, and he loves balls. He loves to play ball, and he loves to cuddle.
He's a good buddy. Good buddy.
He's
Beers,
a good buddy.
beers, cheers.
Yeah, beers, cheers to our pups.
To all the pups in the Siglerverse. My beer is almost already gone, you guys. Apparently, I can knock this stuff back way better than the fancy pants mixed drinks that we usually have. Ladies and gentlemen, let me get over here. It is time to talk about a sponsor, and this time, I know we've been hitting you hard with the sponsors, but come on with these guys. Come on with these guys right here. What the? Whoops. This is the Wildland Firefighter Foundation. Baby, do you feel like reading a little bit of this?
Sure, that's okay. Let me just grab it. So, of course, you guys know that we ask you guys to send in suggestions because otherwise it's just me doing research, and I am biased by my opinions, of course. This recommendation came from Howard DiNatale, who lives and works in Portland, which has been absolutely devastated.
Whoa, sorry. Sorry, guys. Sorry. Continue.
Absolutely devastated by wildfires this year. So this is an American-based charity. I will tell you, with my frozen shoulder, I normally do work and make sure that there's a similar charity. Like I know Australia must have those. Firefighter charities for all the wildfires, that kind of thing. This is specific to the U.S., but it is all around the U.S. They are actually working with firefighters all around the country. They acknowledge and honor past, present, and future members of the firefighting community and partner with private and interagency organizations to bring recognition to wildland firefighters. So there's a difference.
These are all gentlemen who've passed right here, right? These pictures here?
Yes. I think so. This particular one, yeah. I will say there's a difference between what is called wildland firefighters and firefighters in general. Firefighters in general are trained to go into buildings, are trained to bring people out, stuff like that. Wildland firefighters are the people who go out and try to stop the wildfires that we saw in January in Australia, or that we're seeing right now in Northern California and Portland, and then we saw in the beginning of the summer in Portland as well. I have literally no idea how difficult this job might be because I don't like to be even remotely hot. And I know that sounds cavalier, but I'm not being cavalier. The idea that these people choose to work in an uncomfortable, deadly environment all the time is important to note, I think.
And they are an organization that provides immediate financial and crisis assistance to families of fallen and injured wildland firefighters. So those pictures we just showed you, those are all men and women who have perished in the line of duty while fighting fires. And this charity is to largely benefit their families.
Yes, and it's for state, local, regional, park rangers, all sorts of firefighters who fight wildland fires in the United States.
So that is some serious business. Right? There's my uncomfortable laugh. There it is. That's what we do. I've gotten into so much trouble from my uncomfortable laugh over the years.
Not with me.
What's that?
Not with me.
Not with you. Not with you. If we have time at the end, I'll tell a funny story about my ex-wife. It's funny now, but I bet he uncomfortable laughs anyway. It's an uncomfortable laugh story, and it's really something else. But I have a problem when there's a very serious situation, and things are very dark, and people are in trouble. I start to laugh. I don't know why. Well, you guys know. I don't know why. And you know, of course. It pisses people up. I am the daughter of a mortician. Jude, who's in the chat room, is my brother. He's the son of a mortician. And Jude joined the Army right out of high school. I did not. I went to work for a while for my dad as an usher. And I can tell you with absolute certainty that there is a good percentage of the population who literally just cannot. They can internally process sad stress and drama like that, but they can't externally process it. So while they're being like, gosh, this sucks that grandma died, they're also like, hey, she looks great, right? Maybe you should ask her out. And they say something wildly inappropriate because they don't know how to do that. And so it's not uncommon, actually. And you know what? My uncomfortable inappropriateness just came up with a tagline on your punchline. Like, say that again. Hey, which one? Hey, she looks great. Hey, she looks great. Maybe you should ask her out. I mean, it's not like she can say no. Oh, yes, exactly. This sort of thing happens so much more than you would imagine at a funeral because it's hard to do. Woo! Oh boy, and you don't do it a lot. You think you love every day. You love these humans every day, but you don't really do that other part. So it gets kind of crazy. That was a bad joke on a couple of different you feel bad levels. Right now, don't you? I do. Look, he's blushing. You can see him blushing. Look. I feel bad in multiple categories. There, you even redder now. All right. Now we're going to, you know what time it is? You know what time it is, baby? I don't. Questions. Oh, we've got questions. We've got a thing that's from a cartoon that I've never seen. And that's why Stitch, I think, does it have notches in its ears? And why is it licking its own boogers? It's licking its own boogers. And it's looking at us. You know what? I think it's very high. It's high. And we got questions. And we got questions and questions for you. That was, is that Stitch? I don't know. I think it's Stitch. Or is it I'm Lilo? Pretty sure. Is it Lilo? No, it's definitely not Lilo. What I'm not sure is if I'm pretty sure that's Stitch. That's Stitch. You guys, first of all, why is Disney showing us cartoons where Stitch is high as balls in this? Look at him. His eyes are completely dilated. He or she, I don't even know. I think Stitch can barely keep stitches. The kettle black. Can barely keep the eyes open. Also eating its own boogers. This is not the wholesome cartoon that we want the children of the world to see. Everybody's agreeing it's Stitch, and everybody else agrees. Good. They're all like all the comments. Stitch is high as balls. I think that should be the name of the movie sequel. Stitch is as high as balls. That's true. But I have a very serious question. Okay. If you could lick your own boogers, would you? I don't think so. And I put a lot of thought into this. I don't think that I would. But this is the thing. You pick your nose. Everybody picks their nose. Arnold Schwarzenegger told us everybody picks their nose. So why wouldn't you do that? Well, because hold on, got a little bright. Where our brightnesses are off here. You pick your nose. But although you have the capacity to pick your nose, when you pick your nose, do you then eat said boogers? No. Then if you were able to lick your own nose, you probably would not. That's a solid point. I'm not going to lie. Except that is deductive reasoning or inductive reasoning, one of the two. It's reasoning of one form or another. Definitely not deductive reasoning. Yes, it's booger reasoning. It's high on it's Stitches high as balls, man. So I am kind of flummoxed by what you just said because you're not wrong. But at the same time, people pick their noses in inappropriate situations. And what's inappropriate about it is there are people in their vicinity standing right in front of them. Yeah. And they're like, hey, do you want to go next Tuesday and do the thing or whatever? And people are like, I don't know if I should answer about going to TGI Fridays when you're picking your nose. Although that same problem would be true if I was licking boogers out of my nose. Well, you should not. You should not lick boogers. That's one of the things I get upset about. I get upset about many random things that don't necessarily matter. Like people will post a picture of a politician, no matter what party you are. They'll post the opposite politician like, like 2 knuckles deep up in that bitch, right? And they're like, got you picking your nose, you're stupid. I'm like, dude, we all pick our nose. Everyone in the chat room is fishing for nose gold all the time. All the time.
A little bit later, we're going to get to the
out.
conversation about James Randi, and we're going to talk about the ad hominem attack.
Ad hominem attack.
That is. Yeah.
Very good. We have questions. We did not
I can't touch my nose with my tongue.
We did not mean to go off on a philosophical tangent about nose gold and mining for bugs, but we did. First of all, the question we have, question number 1 is Tony Whitaker says, how hard is it to get back into all the different character voices when recording the GFL novels? Going from Ma Tweedy to John has to be tough. We're in the middle of were you just trying to lick your boogers?
I might have been. I can't do it. Let's
give it a try. Ready? Here we go.
Ready? I can't get close even if I press my tongue. Not at all.
Yes, this is why we win many awards for serious science fiction. We win many awards because we're very important science fiction authors.
We're definitely special, and I'm not even an author.
Tony, it's funny you should ask, seeing that we are in the middle of being in the booth. I'm in the booth. A's outside the booth, managing the process and reading the manuscript as I read, catching errors, typos. We make
trying not to make noise with my chair.
As I can hear, it throws me off. We change some of the text as we go. Remember, my whole style is based on conversational English, and by conversational English, I don't mean, well, I noticed today that you were wearing a lovely dress and you're going to go vacation about the countryside as you ride your fancy horse in our mansion.
As long as you bring that satchel that matches your shoes.
I must have the satchel that matches my shoes because it is very important. It is very... No, that is not the kind of fiction that I am writing. Mine is more like this. Dude, you got so blotto last night. Why did you throw up on her? That you had it, you were in, and then you
Or my
barfed on her.
favorite John Tweedy line.
Which is?
Puppies, black holes, mustards, go team, go!
Puppies, black holes, mustard, go team, go! So we make changes to the book as we go to make it more conversational. So if I'm reading and I find anything that would trip me up to my ears, or A hears anything like, yeah, that's not how people would talk. You just said that word 2 seconds ago. That synonym is confusing, etc. We change it on the fly. So that's part of what we're doing in the booth. A big part of what I'm doing is Steve Iceberg has to listen to all this. Steve the Iceberg Ricky Berg's job as the engineer and editor for GFL audiobooks is largely to cut out all of my burps, all of my farts, all of my snots, all of my nose blowing, and all of my curses when I read something and say, who the fuck wrote this? This is garbage. That is primarily Steve's job. I don't envy him this position at all, but he's doing a bang up job of it. So to get to your point, switching characters in the middle of a book, and there's got to be, I'm going to guess, 20 different voices maybe in GFL 6?
At least. There's at least 30 in this book because we introduce a handful of new characters, and it's book 6 after all. So
yeah.
We still see Greedock, we still see Quentin, we still see John, Jew, Becca.
Yeah. Oh, there's a lot. There's a lot.
Yeah.
Some of them are easy, like doing John Tweedy. That's a piece of pie. That comes around all the time. This easy to do, and because I've been doing them for so long, and the Quentin voice is very easy to do, but when you switch to like the secondary characters like Ma Tweedy's, what you asked about, having a conversation with Quentin, Becca, Ma Tweedy, John Tweedy, Jew Tweedy, Michael Kimberlin, and Fred all in the same scene, plus Janine, who is basically a normal voice. So I'm switching between 8 characters in a single scene. And then also trying to kind of on the fly, I don't need to say John said for most of the John Tweedy lines because it's you know who said that. You know who said that thing right there. So it's immensely difficult, to be honest with you. What's really tough though is the new characters. And A and I were talking. We might do an episode where we do a whole SIGLERinPLACE episode on the buttons. The buttons are these little audio clips that if I get stuck and can't channel a character, I will have A play an audio clip, usually from a comedian because they have the most distinctive character voices. And I will have her play that so that I can quickly get into character and then do the dialogue. Or I have phrases that I repeat over and over and over again, which is another one of the things that poor Steve Rickyberg has to deal with. I would guess at least, I'm not exaggerating, at least 300 times per book, if not more. Steve has to hear me getting into Greedoc's voice, which is, and I use my Greedoc button, which is, did you hear what he said to me? And then Steve has to cut all those out because you can't stop to do it. We just let the tape roll. Somebody asked, do I emulate the conversation of alien races? Yes, to some extent. Sklorno in particular, speak in a very different way. But I wrote the series with Quith being very human adjacent, so that the two main bulk of characters, humans and Quith, are largely, that's normal Americanized conversation. So I did that intentionally when I started out the story. Steve actually just typed in the comments, did you hear what he said to me?
Yeah. So there is one more before we go to Randy. Do one more. Do Virak, because Virak is so funny because I can't tell you why, because it's a spoiler for a book you haven't read.
Yes.
But the particular button you have is kind of interesting for Virak now. So
yeah.
I'll tell you now.
Okay. So for Virak, since Virak was in the first book, he was in The Rookie, and even in the swear words version of The Rookie, I think the first line Virak had on the field was, "Gonna put him in a body bag."
It is, yeah.
So Steve has to hear that thousands of times over the years. Thousands of times.
And, the thing is, when Virak is on the field or protecting Greedoc or any of his jobs as a warrior, a Quith warrior, that's whole cloth who he is. When he is talking to other people, when he's talking to Quentin, when he's talking to Chota, when he's talking to friends, that's still the same button.
So
it literally could be like, I'm going to put him in a body bag. Cute. This is not a line. I'm not spoiling anything. But for example, it could be, I'm going to put him in a body bag. Q, I really love you. Like, it could be a thing like that. And so poor Steve and poor me, I'm not going to lie. We're it's always jarring because we're reading along. Steve and I are looking at the manuscript. So we know exactly what it should say. And then he stops to do the button. And so we're like, all right, this is a very important moment.
Yeah.
And then with Virak.
I
put him in a body bag.
I can't speak for the other audiobooks, but editing a GFL audiobook with all the buttons, all the different character voices, we stop dozens and dozens of times for every chapter. Mm-hmm. Here, you know what, Steve? If I had any beer left, you'd get a beer's cheer.
I should have tried to make those tequila Oasis.
Well, I'm gonna pound some beers tonight because it's
just rolled it along.
American Beer Day.
All in the shaker and then just kick that shaker around the floor. That's what I should have done.
Let's go to Mia Brown's question. What we're gonna do? I think I said it. Yes, we may do a whole Sigler in Place on nothing but the buttons. I'll play you the buttons. We may play, if we can, some video clips of the comedians I base the characters on. Show you the process behind doing all of these characters and why the GFL is the way that it is. Mia Brown's question is, or my Brown's question, I'm not sure which. Mia. Mm-hmm. She says, I know you know, I am the you. She knows, I know you know how the GFL ends. Will you share anything? How dare you? How goddamn dare you?
I mean, I can share a thing pretty plainly.
Can you?
It definitively ends.
Not just definitively ends. It ends significantly.
Okay, I wasn't gonna spoil anything.
There's an enormous amount of.
There's definitely an ending.
There's an ending. There's a lot of turgitude. There's a lot of swollen girthiness to the end.
Should I go back to trying to touch my nose?
No, I would like. I forgot. I did. You guys all saw me wipe my nose, and I did not lick it. So I didn't do it. So Stitch, high AF Stitch. That bugger tastes good. I think I need a voice for Stitch. Well, I don't think
he has nostrils though, so he's just licking his nose like the dogs do.
What do you have a nose for if you don't have nostrils? That doesn't even make scientific sense.
I mean, look at him.
Well, just because you can't see him, is he an alien?
I think so. I don't know.
I thought he was a marmoset. Isn't that a marmoset? A blue marmoset?
Definitely not.
Okay, back to can I say anything about how the GFL ends? I will say that starting on book 3, that there's a lot of foreshadowing going on. There's a lot of things I'm doing to try and get some concepts into your head book 3, 4, 5, 6, and subtly get things going in there so that they start to normalize in your head. They normalize so that when the bad stuff happens or the huge dramatic element happens, you're not like, oh, okay, well, okay, here's the big bad, etc. Or like, oh, now Scott's trying to shift it in this direction. I've already laid that groundwork 1,000 pages ago. So if I do my job right, you are just like, oh God, I wondered when those were going to show up. And I will give you guys this. One of those things is the Abernethyia. They have been prominent in not only the GFL book, they are going to be very prominent in the Crypt series as well. And they are a big factor in this. And the other thing I will say, I don't think it's unreasonable I don't think this is a spoiler, is you've watched Quentin's football career over the course of 5 books. And now he is growing up to some extent, and the stories are becoming more about the characters and the relationships between the characters away from the football field. So this may disappoint some people, but the last 3 books in the series, there's not as much football in it.
Actually don't think so. And here's why. I am the person who gets I am the person who first sees the email if you send it to info@emptyset, because Scott is always writing. Or right now he's recording. And I am kind of the business manager. So the deal is, like, we both get them, but I see them first. I manage them. If he needs to see them, I make sure he sees them. And I will say I get once a week at the minimum once a week I get an email saying, like, gosh, I read every single other thing in the Scott Sigler library, and then finally I had nothing left to read, and you haven't put out a new book, and how dare you? So I flippin' tried the Rookie. And now it's my favorite book ever. You know, like, that happens so frequently. I have 4 absolutely stock email responses that just sit in my draft folder so that I go get them. And there are 2 of the 4 of them are, you loved the Rookie or you hated Pandemic.
Okay.
Pandemic was this beautifully balanced, I'll be very quick about it, beautifully balanced, no matter what your personal views, political views, conservative, liberal, whatever, you read that book and you either thought Scott was a liberal who hated conservatives, or you thought he was a conservative who hated liberals. We get that email probably twice a month, and once a week we get an email like, I absolutely resisted, and now I love it, and I read every single book in the GFL in 5 days. And when is the next book coming out?
All right. These questions got away from us a little bit. We have a lot of content to cover. Most importantly, the James Randi retrospective coming up. So we're going to have to rush through this week's headline of the week. But guess what? Guess what everybody gets?
What?
New song.
Oh, Lord.
We've got headlines of the week. We've got breaking news. Smack you in your beak. It's a headline.
I'm not going to smack anybody.
Of the week. And this week we're going to talk about the headlines of the week. This week's headline of the week that I want to focus on. I'm not a fan of the New York Post, you guys. It's a tabloid. However, I'm letting you know. Just showing you over at, if you're not following at facebook.com/Scott Sigler, you're a fool. You're a fool, Ed Hardy. That's what you are. So over here, we talked about this amazing headline: self-cloning mutant crayfish take over Belgian cemetery.
Now, alone, the first half of that sentence wouldn't be so bad.
I'm already
alone,
yeah.
The second part wouldn't be so bad.
Yeah.
Things take over cemeteries all the time. Things like mosses and lichens all the time. Maybe goths. I don't know. Also, self-cloning mutant crayfish is not unusual at all. But when you combine the two, shit gets crazy.
So then this...
tip jar. Swear jar I have to put.
Swear jar. Well, okay. We're going to read a little bit of this. Is fascinating. Not only is this fascinating, I have a horror story that I have had in my head for years that is based on basically what is happening. We're going to cover that. I just want to point out that here is the New York Post busting out a headline, and here is Vice not even trying anymore. Self-cloning crayfish have taken over a cemetery in Belgium. Self-cloning mutant crayfish. Vice got scientific and left out the mutant, which they are wrong about because it is a friggin' mutant.
It isn't. It's a clone, I thought.
No, the mutation is what gave rise to the cloning.
The clone, right.
Yep.
So it's a mutant clone.
So there's a great article over on The Atlantic if you guys want to track this down. I'm going to read a little bit of this article real quick. This is by, oh my God. I forgot how sick this is.
To their reproduction.
Mm-hmm.
And now that they're in the Canada and northern U.S. waterways, which has been 30 years.
I'm particularly grateful that The Atlantic showed a picture. You're right. These guys could not look more delicious.
I know, right?
So delicious.
Mm-hmm.
Look at these bad boys.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's go back to Maine. That was our headline of the week, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I believe, I think that's it for our script. This day in Sigler, some junkie
We're going to talk
questions.
about Randy.
Oh, we're going to talk about Randy right now.
A few minutes
One last thing. This is very important for you, no matter what side of the political spectrum you may or may not be on. Ladies and gentlemen, we have 6 days, 6 hours left until the election for senators and reps and the president of the United States of America.
And if
wanted to point out, it is too late to mail your shit. If you have an absentee ballot and you've been very busy and you have been waiting to mail it, do not mail it. While I would love to live in a country that does everything it can to make sure that citizen safety is protected and you can mail your ballot in, there are a lot of people now saying, based on some recent Supreme Court decisions and where things are leaning, that ballots received by mail after November 3rd will not count. So if you waited, you're either going to have to go stand in line, please wear a mask, or you're going to need to make sure your absentee ballot is dropped off at a valid ballot collection site, and vote.org can help with all that information. Okay? All right. Back to Maine. Now, baby.
So you guys know last week that James Randi died. He was 92 years old. Whether or not you've ever heard of James Randi before,
the subject was Uri Geller, a young Israeli who claimed to have supernatural powers.
Something that I wish we had.
His remarkable affinity.
I will be, full disclosure, I will let you guys know that I worked at the James Randi Educational Foundation back in 2009.
The subject was Uri Geller, a young Israeli who claimed to have supernatural powers.
I think the presses are in the chat room, and they
His remarkable.
We're friends of Randy. There's a handful of folks who will have suffered last week the same loss that I did. I will say, I'm going to give you a little bit of his background, but then I'm just going to talk about why it was hard. It's hard for me to have lost him, because one of the things that I saw last week quite a lot is that one of the things that were so powerful about James Randi was his ability to bring like-minded people together. And that's the reason that I love Bruce and Julie Press and their kids. That's the reason I love Maria Walters, who's in the chat room, Maria DeSouza, who's in the chat room. This is the reason that I love so many people who I met in that timeline. I will say, James Randi, born in 1928, I think he was 92 years old when he died. He was a teenager in Canada, in Toronto, and he went into a church and he watched a priest perform essentially what's called a cold reading, like faith healing, telling people about their own lives by absorbing clues and stuff. And he saw right through it, and he went up to the pulpit and he revealed the preacher's trick. And the preacher's wife was mad, and she called the police. And James Randi spent 4 hours in a jail cell as a teenager because he disrupted this thing. And he said in a 1987 interview with NPR, this is my favorite picture of James Randi. This was one of his skill sets. I'll talk about this in a second. Don't take it down.
Okay.
He said in a 1987 interview with NPR that at that moment, in those 4 hours that he spent in jail, so mad that this preacher was faking these things and making people actually sad and making people actually distraught and desperate. I mean, think about somebody talking to your dead grandpa, and that's a fake. You suffer the consequences of that. And he was mad about it. So he said, I made up my mind in those 4 hours in jail that there would come a time that I would have the prestige, the knowledge, the platform on which to stand to denounce these people, if indeed they were fake. And that's exactly what he did with the rest of his life. James Randi was a magician. He was also an escape artist. This is him locked into all of those handcuffs. And this is a publicity shot, but he actually got out of all those handcuffs on his own. He was an escape artist. He was a magician, but he was also a MacArthur Genius Grant winner for his debunking. And,
I've got some debunking to show later too. So
yeah, and his critical thinking skills. But like I said, in 2009, I went to work for the JRF. I spent about a year there, and the thing that I think that's the hardest for me about losing Randy as a part of our world is that Randy always was willing to believe. And that sounds crazy to say out loud for somebody who I just called a skeptic and a critical thinker and a debunker. This photo that you see right now on the screen is a beautiful, beautiful shot from the amazing meeting, which was a meeting that happened at the James Randi Educational Foundation, which was his nonprofit. This photo is by Bruce Press, who's in the chat room. It's gorgeous and so powerfully Randy. It makes me sad to see it. The thing about it is,
do you want me to show some debunking?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
In that quote I just read, he said, if they were fake. And in my experience working with Randy, that if was so essential. I believe in his life, he never saw a real paranormal phenomenon. I haven't either. But unlike Randy, or unlike me, Randy never quite lost his willingness to be wrong about that. He did something called the $1 Million Challenge, and he had $1 million at, I think it was Goldman Sachs. I think it might still be there, for all I know, in escrow for anyone who had a paranormal claim. I can read your mind. I can talk to ghosts. I see Bigfoot. whatever. I can make your hair stand on end without your willingness or whatever, and I don't need to touch you. Whatever it was. They could apply to the James Randi Educational Foundation and work with the foundation on a trial, on a test that would prove the paranormal thing that they thought they could do. And they did it with the James Randi Educational Foundation. It wasn't like the JREF said, cool, show up and read minds and we'll decide if that's cool. Mm-hmm. They created a test together. And in all the time that the James Randi Educational Foundation had a $1 million challenge and all the $1 million challenges that they did, there was never a paranormal proof. Not once, not even remotely. And I believe that still exists. So that was super powerful for me. When I went to work with him in 2009, that was a very powerful thing because, of course, I was young and new to critical thinking, or newish to critical thinking and skepticism. And I thought, well, sure, now that I found this out. This is another photograph, by the way, that Bruce Press took, and it's beautiful. And Randy, literally, I watched him more than once. Somebody would say, so, like you meet a psychic, say, and he would say, absolutely instinctively, without malice, gosh, I hope to. I haven't yet. I would love to. I would love that, because, why not? You're allowed, when you think critically, you are allowed to change your mind. Mm-hmm. And that was the beautiful thing about Randy. So I just have a couple of things that I want to say. I mentioned the $1 million challenge. When I worked at the JREF too, another thing that happened, which I'm not sure a lot of people would have had access to, I lived in California and worked in California, and the James Randi Educational Foundation was in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And so I would work a lot by Skype. And if I worked with Randy, which wasn't that often, I'll be honest, it would be in his office, and he had an Oxford English Dictionary, a copy of an original Oxford English Dictionary, and it was in his office. And if I used a word that I didn't either use correctly, he thought I didn't use correctly, or he did, he would be like, hang on, and he would get up and look it up. And I find that fascinating because I worked with him in his 80s, late 80s, mid 80s. I've done that. I did that as a kid. I have a dictionary that I used to do that with as a kid, but I haven't done it since. So I love that. And then there's also this weird thing that keeps coming up now, which I appreciate some of the critical thinkers in our audience tonight might appreciate. We got a fan mail, I guess, when I worked there, which called Randy, the person who wrote it, called Randy his lodestar. And if you don't know what a lodestar is, the North Star is a lodestar. A lodestar was a way for ships to navigate by a single point in the sky and safely navigate. And he was so flummoxed. He was like, no. Critical thinking is your lodestar. I'm not. And he was a showman. He loved attention. He loved to be the focus of a room. He loved all of that, but not at the expense of teaching somebody to think critically, learn to think critically, learn to question things. And at the end of that same article that I brought up in the beginning, with NPR, he said, I can't do real magic. I think there's more magic in the opening of a morning glory than anything I or charlatans in history has ever done, is doing, or will ever do. And I miss him. Right. I'm sad he's gone.
We are now going to show you something cool, I think, if I can get this right. Let's see. Hold on, guys. There we go. There's Randy. This is... The slides did not work, but what we do have for you right now is there was a... Go back to main for a second. There was a... I'll say it. I'll do it. A charlatan, if you will, called Uri Geller. Is that correct? Uri Geller.
Absolutely, yeah.
Who you're going to hear Randy's voice in a moment describing the situation. But Uri Geller was, like not all, but most paranormal practitioners, was a con artist. And you have magic tricks and you game the system and you do all these things to prey on people so that they will give you money. And these are what skeptics like Randy have sought to debunk. And Uri was the tall hog at the trough. He could do this trick called spoon bending. He had great mind reading skills. He could read. He could imagine you could draw something he didn't see, and he could draw a facsimile thereof. And he was blowing people away in the 70s. And then the Tonight Show. I'm gonna let him talk about it here. This is the voice of the man himself. Let's see if I can get this to work. If it's too loud, I will adjust it. So bear with me.
Yeah, this is from the foundation. Yeah.
The subject was Uri Geller, a young Israeli who claimed to have supernatural powers.
Oh, shit.
His remarkable affinity for metal and his psychic abilities are well documented all over the world.
The subject was Uri Geller, a young Israeli who claimed to have supernatural powers.
His remarkable affinity for metal and his psychic abilities are well documented all over the world.
In the early 1970s, Geller became a superstar, the most famous psychic in the world. And then, of course, there was Mr. Geller's appearance on The Tonight Show. I got a call after they booked him to appear.
Would you welcome, please, Uri Geller.
Johnny had been a magician himself and was skeptical. I was asked to help prevent any trickery.
Nice to see you.
Thanks.
We have only met...
This scares me.
This scares you? Well, this is we just got some things...
A hard time with you.
Okay, I don't mean to be, Uri. I really don't.
Just keep looking.
Well, I can ask you all kinds of questions if you'd like me to ask you questions.
Okay, let me rest a little, all right?
All right. I'm going to ask you questions.
I have to have time.
You guys can hear Johnny and Uri say I can hear them in the text.
Stark, we are back. Uri was telling me you don't feel, what, strong tonight?
I don't
Is that...
feel strong. It's not all tonight. Right now I'm feeling being pressed, and then I can't...
Well, I'm not trying to press you. I really not.
No, you're only telling me, well, will you try...
I don't know if you guys can hear that or not, but let me recap, as it looks like Emily McGregor's still hearing two audios. I don't know what happened with that. We were getting it really loud here. But in short, Uri Geller comes on The Tonight Show to spoon bend and tell which containers have water and do a bunch of other prognostication stuff. And the Johnny Carson Show contacted Randy and had Randy pre-prepare all the all the tests. So it was all the stuff that Uri does all the time, except Uri and his team.
He didn't prep it.
They weren't able to prep it.
Or touch it.
And Johnny, who as it says in the video, was a magician. Randy was a magician. There's nothing wrong with doing these tricks and blowing people away. And like, how did you do that when you're trying to pretend you actually have psychic powers and are fleecing people for money? That's what Johnny took umbrage to and asked Randy to come on. Like, great, if he can do this, fine. Let's give him a real test.
And I will say, Johnny Carson, also an enormously wonderful guy, enormously wonderful critical thinker. He spent a good amount of his time, his fortune, and his energy and
The
his
subject
money,
was Uri Geller, a young Israeli who
promoting
claimed
scientific thinking and critical thinking in his lifetime and after. He made several endowments. There is also the Johnny Carson Foundation, which is a lot about critical thinking and science exploration. And he made several, would activate posthumously repetitive donations to critical thinking community and sites and things like that. And also things like Bellevue Hospital in New York, which is often on the front lines of something unseen. Like they were on the front lines of the AIDS crisis, and they were the first place that an Ebola patient got successfully treated in the United States, things like that. He also espoused that because if you can find it on one website on the internet, but nowhere else, it's almost assuredly untrue. And you have the skills within your own head to be a critical thinker and to make the best decision for you. And that is a thing that Johnny Carson and absolutely James Randi espoused their entire lives. And I'm sorry he's gone. He was 92 years old. I will say a sentiment I've heard quite a lot, that it was not at all unexpected, but it is still a great loss.
And you guys, if you just go to YouTube and search for Uri, Y-U-R-I, G-E-L-A-R, Tonight Show.
G-E-L-L-E-R, I thought.
Well, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, G-E-L-L-E-R.
Yeah.
You can see this, and it's, I'm sorry I didn't get the audio right, but it's just amazing to watch a con man crumble in the middle of everything. And Johnny... You can see Johnny just...
Look at him smoking in 1972 on TV.
Right on TV. But Johnny's trying to be calm, and all he's trying to do is, like, you can see him, he's like vibrating inside because he's so funny. So he was such a brilliant
But he also
interviewer and
trucked
comedian.
no bullshit.
But he was trying to be like, I don't want to skew this in any way. I just want to let Uri do his thing. And Johnny trying to be quiet while Uri Geller makes excuses after excuse after excuse.
Yeah,
He's fantastic.
this is just the beginning of it. Of course, I will spoiler you guys and say Uri couldn't bend a spoon, still can't to this day, unless he does it incorrectly and fakely and fools you. Also, Mario mentioned Peter Popoff. Peter Popoff was a faith healer who wore an ear, a little earbud, and had his what are called Confederates fleece people at the beginning when they were getting ready and sitting down, having them fill out stuff and things like that. So all of this and something called logical fallacies. If you have never heard that phrase before, logical fallacies, look that up, learn them. You will save yourself time, money, energy, heartbreak, medical decisions, all sorts of stuff. Learn to identify logical fallacies.
And if you want to know more about Randy, you can watch a documentary called An Honest Liar. Here's the trailer right here. I would try to play the audio, but clearly I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, definitely don't do that.
But this is a documentary on Randy busting people up.
Yeah, it came out in
smacking them
2005.
in the
I
mouth.
actually was part of helping arrange some interviews for this, not for the Honest Liar folks, but for people I worked for at the time, like I mentioned. So you will be able to, you'll see like lots of people you're familiar with who you know to be skeptics. James Randi, Adam Savage, Jamie Ian Swiss, who's also a close-up card magician.
Brilliant.
Penn and Teller, clearly very hardcore skeptics. And I think it's a lovely movie. The title comes from a thing that Randy said that Jamie and Swiss says quite a lot, which is there's Adam, which is I am absolutely an honest liar. Well, I guess the phrase was I'm an honest liar. I tell you I'm going to lie to you, and then I do. Anybody else who doesn't tell you they're going to lie to you is fleecing you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, our dogs are whining. Let me get back to Maine here. Baby girl, I believe it is time for us to tap on out.
Okay.
What?
I'm not going to lean too far in because of the shoulder.
Oh, okay. Well,
I'm like, oh, I forgot about this.
There you go.
So If you guys have any ideas, if you have content ideas, if you have questions, if you have nonprofit sponsor ideas, if you have anything to say to us, please email info@emptyset.com. That is the best way to get us information, especially for Sigler in Place, but for anything else as well.
We will be back Thursday.